Hey everybody, welcome to Full Time Fans. I'm Logan and I'm with my dad here, and we're continuing to watch the MCU in the order of chronological, kind of. So we're going Captain America, First Avenger, which we have already made a video on that, and now we are going with Iron Man, 2008's Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau, starring Robert Downey Jr. and basically the start of his biggest comeback ever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man,
In
so
fact, I was reading an article the other day that said that Robert Downey Jr. was kind of the wild card. Terrence Howard was the guy that everybody was all solid on because he'd just been nominated for some award. I can't remember whether it was an Academy Award but Terrence Howard was the one that actually recommended that they take a chance on Robert Downey Jr.
yeah, and we all know that Terrence Howard, he went on to do quite a few things with the MCU, right? No. No, he kind of got the shaft after the first Iron Man, right?
He did. He had a contract and was going to make I can't remember what it was, but it was a multi-million-dollar contract for the second movie, and then it ended up getting cut back to $1 million when Downey Jr. knocked it out of the park. And he decided he wasn't going to do that.
This is the first movie in the entire MCU, the one that started everything, and the funny thing is everyone and their grandmother knows who Iron Man and Captain America are now.
Yeah.
They weren't super famous back in the day. They were kind of the B-list characters. The only really famous Marvel character was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And the rest of them all, Spider-Man was basically the Batman of Marvel because he's the one that kept getting, so many movies made about him because he had just that name that was already popular. The Avengers weren't like the Justice League. The Justice League was popular already. They had a cartoon. They'd been around for a really long time. The Avengers was it was the main team where any hero could become a member, but the X-Men was the most popular superhero team that Marvel owned. And probably after that was Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And
now, and Jon Favreau really he'd had a couple hits, and then they give him Iron Man, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, he really just brought it for Iron Man, and I don't care what anybody says, he brought it for Iron Man 2 also, because everybody, either hates or loves Iron Man 2. I think that it's actually pretty good, but the first one I think will always probably be the best Iron Man movie that they've made so far, because Downey playing a billionaire who's kind of losing it a little bit. Basically it's kind of a reflection of who he is with Iron Man, because Iron Man had a addiction in the comics. He has an addiction to alcohol, and he's still trying to do the right thing as Iron Man and everything, and that's kind of where Downey was at with Iron Man. He was a guy who had gone through addiction and everything, and he wanted to do the right thing and do something that would impact people. And then he made the first Iron Man movie and became the Tony Stark we all think is the definitive
version. Spider-Man was quirky, with the Tobey Maguire rendition of him, which was the only one that came before this movie was made. But this was really probably one of the first cracks at trying to make a superhero movie and enhance the character defects of the character, and a list of character flaws that a mile long, and they still made him lovable, and you were rooting for him through the whole thing right from the start.
Another Favreau movie we haven't mentioned is also a Marvel one, Daredevil. he played Foggy in that. Yeah.
One of the first movies I ever saw him in was PCU. Yeah, he was a stoner back then.
PCU. Was that just a high school movie or something, or a college?
Yeah, it was a college movie about college, and it was he was cast in that. Although I don't even see it on his Wikipedia page, which is interesting.
Huh. Well, yeah, Iron Man was a really good starting point for the MCU. We started with First Avenger because it's chronologically it would take place first. At least the majority of the movie would, and. But I just like the watch order of watching First Avenger, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Thor, and then Avengers for Phase 1. Because you still get the after credit scenes in order. They still work correctly if you watch those movies in that order, but First Avenger kind of already gets you really hyped for Avengers, since like its after credit scene is a trailer for the Avengers.
Yeah,
and
starkly contrast. You got one character that's extremely humble and responsible, and one that's completely irresponsible and full of himself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's another good reason for watching it this way, is that you get to see the two leaders of the Avengers right away. You get to see Captain America and then immediately watch Iron Man.
Yep.
And then they come together in Avengers, and they've been clashing ever since, really, with their personalities. Sometimes they become friends over it, sometimes not so much. But, yeah, so... I mean, when we're making this video, Infinity War's already come out, so after we come back from watching the movie, there will probably end up being spoilers for both Iron Man and a few other movies, and especially probably Infinity War, because we'll end up talking about how things have progressed to that point. But yeah, if you want to keep watching these movies with us in the order that we're watching them, go ahead and watch the movie and then come back to this video. So yeah, we'll see you guys then. And we're back from watching the one that started it all, Iron Man, made in 2008 by Jon Favreau, led by Robert Downey Jr. and a bunch of other really good cast members.
Yep.
And it still holds up as one of the best origin stories for any superhero. It's crazy how good this one is. And you can tell it's from the early 2000s because MySpace is very quickly referenced at the beginning of this movie.
You're kidding me with the hand up, right?
Is it cool if I take a picture with you?
Yes. It's very cool. I don't want to see this on your MySpace page.
And that poor guy never got it posted to his MySpace page.
The thing that bugs me about people who compare DC and Marvel movies anyway, not comics but movies, they're always saying, like, I've heard so many people say that Marvel's just for kids, and if you like it then you're a fanboy and everything like that, and if you should like DC because they're darker and more adult. They are not. Okay? The colors are darker, but the content, no. Tony Stark was waterboarded, had a surgery performed on him to keep shrapnel from going into his heart. We watched several soldiers just bombed and killed.
Before they could post their MySpace pages.
Yes. And it's just insane. I'm like, how could you possibly think that this is not darker than DC?
Oh, Jensen died. They almost put a steaming bolt in his mouth.
Yeah. Jensen, the guy he was locked up in prison with, he was killed, and like his story was sad too, because like he said when he'd leave he'd see his family, and then you get the reveal that his family was dead the whole time, and he dies before he leaves, and it's sad. And it's really cool to watch First Avenger before watching this one, because then you get like some of the references that he talks about his father and how he helped out in World War II and everything, and even to build the atomic bomb apparently.
It's pretty amazing how quickly Robert Downey Jr. stepped into the Tony Stark character, and I mean, because even his first 5 lines, they're no different than the lines than his persona in Infinity War. Just
I mean, he's the same person there, like through the whole thing. He just grows and changes, but he's always Tony Stark. And and then I love how he just gets an award for making weapons and everything like that, and he's not even there. He's in Vegas just gambling away all his money and losing. But, so here's something. Terrence or Cheadle for War Machine? What do you think, Dad?
I like Don Cheadle. I have a thing for Don Cheadle. Terrence, even though I now understand why he decided not to continue on with the franchise, and it makes sense, and I feel bad for him. Yeah, Don Cheadle. I think he personifies the soldier more than.
Yeah, you were saying like when we were watching the movie that he's a little like Terrence's version of Rhodey is a little bit more wishy-washy. Like he's more like covering Tony's ass all the time, and Don Cheadle doesn't do that as often. Like
He's a lot more confrontational in his face, and he has a more commanding presence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I think Don Cheadle does a better job.
It would have been interesting to see. We probably wouldn't have got Robert Downey though hadn't Terrence been in the first one.
That's
but
true.
It would have been interesting to see what Iron Man 1 would have been like had Cheadle been War Machine and Downey still been Iron Man. But yeah, Pepper's line about taking out the trash. So we got this reporter lady who only really appears in the MCU, in this movie and Iron Man 2, and she, you know what? I feel like there's just something to be said about her credibility as a reporter, seeing as how she was sent to go after Tony as like an attack on him, basically, like through the press, and she ends up fucking him, and so. I'm like, I don't know if you really are a credible reporter at that point, but and then Pepper like
on the down low.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it's Tony Stark. It's like, so then the plot kind of moves forward. We go back to the Middle East here after that flashback showing like who Tony is and everything, and the terrorist group known as the Ten Rings, which the Ten Rings are objects used by Iron Man's main nemesis in the comics, the Mandarin, which is why it kind of bums me out that Raza, the leader of the Ten Rings in this movie, didn't come back as the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, and I think that's kind of how it would have gone had Jon Favreau directed Iron Man 3, but yeah, it just kind of felt like it was leading up to something that didn't get paid off at all for me with Raza, because I liked him as a character. He was intimidating when he was forcing Tony to build the Jericho missile, and then when he was gonna put like a burning bolt into Jensen's mouth, and so he's kind of a crazy dude, and it would have been really cool to see that. And it was also kind of cool when you look back at Iron Man's first suit in this one, how far he's come since the first Iron Man 2 Infinity War, because now he has a suit that can fit inside of the lining of his arc reactor and just come around his entire body. And he started out with one that was like a big clunky thing that just had one missile on it and 2 flamethrowers and jets on his feet, and that's about it.
There was a lot of, I mean, for the how long ago this movie was put out, there's a lot of realistic effects that just still look fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of bugs me, is because I've seen Iron Man 2 not too long ago. I think I watched it last year. And you can tell a clear drop in the quality of the CGI from Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 2. And I don't really get how that works, because the first one did it better, and now you got this second one that's not quite as good, with the CGI effects anyway.
Jeff Bridges was fantastic.
Jeff Bridges was a great villain. Obadiah Stane. I liked Obadiah. He was very intimidating whenever he wasn't in the Ironmonger suit.
Yeah, he was a much more intimidating villain before he put on the suit than after he had the suit on.
Especially with that technology where he can paralyze you for a temporary amount of time. And it was just like, that probably could have been useful in so many situations in the MCU after Iron Man 1. But this is the only time we ever see it. But it was really cool to see him, especially when he goes up against Raza and like turns it on. And I see, this is also why I see Raza as a better Mandarin.
Technology. It's always been your Achilles heel in this part of the world.
And Iron Man is technology, the Mandarin is magic.
Yep.
And so it would have been really interesting to see Raza take up magic as opposed to technology and fighting Iron Man in Iron Man 3. But that's not how things went. We'll eventually get to Iron Man 3. But Tony gets out of the prison and is rescued by Rhodey, and then he gets brought back, and he shuts down the weapons division of his company completely. And it's really interesting to see how quickly he goes from this guy who's just profiting off of destruction and doesn't really care because he doesn't see it, and then once he sees it, he can't ignore it.
Yep.
Sounds a little like another hero that we know.
I'm sorry, Tony.
If I see a situation pointed south, I can't ignore it. Sometimes I wish I could.
Yeah, they are polar opposites when it comes to their personas.
And then we get Coulson for the first time in the MCU for this movie.
I love how they were very careful, especially for, and I've got kids that were into superheroes and comics and stuff, but I never read the comics, so not being aware of all this stuff, I learned it after the movie gets done, and kids tell me about it, but I like how they held back saying S.H.I.E.L.D. till the very end of the movie. They continually, said the entire,
the actual acronym.
The actual
stuff,
words for the acronym as opposed to using the acronym till the very end for those people that would actually recognize S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought that was pretty sharp.
Yeah. And then we also had this ongoing gag that has persisted all the way up to Homecoming with this robot arm that Tony treats like a pet, almost.
Dummy.
It's so funny. I love that robot.
For lack of a better option, dummy is still on fire safety. If you douse me again and I'm not on fire, I'm donating you to City College. Please don't follow me around with it either, because I feel like I'm going to catch on fire spontaneously.
And then you actually do see that arm again on a moving day in Spider-Man Homecoming when they're moving Avengers Tower. Yeah, then we get a great scene in Iron Man's first flight when he finishes the silver suit and he goes out for the first time. And his suit ices over and he falls. And Dad was pointing out that why doesn't he have parachutes? But it may not have done much for a big heavy iron suit to have a parachute. But it was kind of crazy to see like how close he got to just like splatting on the ground. Which I don't know if that would even kill him in these kind of movies because Iron Man falls a lot and it does not kill him or even really hurt him that much. Yeah. So what do you think about Tony and Pepper, Dad?
She definitely plays an important part, especially with his self-realization with Yinsen in the cave that, he's been completely an ass his entire life, that's been completely unaccountable for anything that he's doing, and he starts to realize how his greater impact on the world, and then his personal failings is the fact that he has nobody, and he starts to realize that Pepper is somebody, and begins to start to treat her that way, and he just does a really good arc that they began in the first movie. Yeah,
and it still persists now into Infinity War. It's like, because he mentions at the end of the movie, he's like, if I were Iron Man, then I'd have this girlfriend who is really conflicted about me being Iron Man because she knows I'm doing the right thing, but she would also be worried that I'm going to die and everything like that. And then in Infinity War, when he goes up to face off against Ebony Maw and save Spider-Man by giving him the Iron Spider suit, he calls up Pepper and tells her, like, hey, we're going to have to push back our reservation. She's like, why? Because I may not be coming back soon and everything. And she's just like, come back right now. And that's the last... We don't even know if Pepper's alive right now after Infinity War. She could have turned to dust for all we know.
For sure.
There's just this movie just sets up so many things that will eventually get paid off, and it's not necessarily like that they had the plan from day one. It's just kind of that they took what they made and they made it work as they went on.
They did,
and it's really cool. And that's the thing that's any series of movies should do. They should strive to make the things that were important before even more important later, and even if it's in unexpected ways. And which is why I feel like the MCU does a lot better job than Star Wars has been of late, because Star Wars kind of just takes things that aren't important at all, makes them important, and then takes them away, a lot with Last Jedi especially. But the MCU, in every movie, whether it's an individual hero story or a team movie, they continually make things that have happened before more important, while at the same time making this movie stand on its own.
And they tie things together within their own movies too. Just even like his original arc reactor, how Pepper packaged it for him, and it ended up becoming really important to him at the end of the movie.
That's really cool. I like that kind of setup and payoff that they had within this movie by itself. And then when Iron Man finally hears that Obadiah is selling under the table weapons to the other side, he gets pissed and he's watching his company's weapons being used to oppress a town called Gulmira. And that's when we get the first Iron Man mission ever, where he goes out there and we see like this whole town being terrorized, and Iron Man is just sitting there watching TV with one of the Iron Man arms on his hand, and you just slowly see him getting more and more pissed as he's watching this TV, and then he starts blasting up his own shop and just knows he can do something about it. I just like that because there's no dialogue there at all. It's just him slowly getting more and more pissed until he finally can't take it anymore and he just goes.
Yep.
And what I would really like to see for like future installments in the MCU is to continue to do things like use things that have already been shown to us and make them more important. And specifically in this one, Galmira is it looks like a small city kind of area in the Middle East, and Ms. Marvel is Middle Eastern and she's Muslim, and Kamala Khan in the comics. It would be really interesting if they come back to that and show that maybe like her mother or father or somebody was there and when Iron Man saved their town, and now Kamala is in New York and becomes Ms. Marvel. I think that would be really cool to do, something to do after Avengers 4 wraps up, because it would be really interesting. I really like her character. I've read her first volume of her comic, and she's a lot like Spider-Man in the fact that she's like a teenager trying to deal with teenager problems, but it's a little different because of like the cultural barrier of like having immigrant parents and being Muslim and everything, just having a lot of other things going on that Peter hasn't ever had to deal with. And I think it would be really interesting to show just younger Avengers coming in, especially since like Spider-Man could actually be the Iron Man to them as he gets older, because he was basically Iron Man's apprentice. So here's a question I asked Dad: could Obadiah be Hydra? Do you think?
And I don't know. He could have been. He was evil. He was definitely underhanded. He had alternative motives, but he never made. Every Hydra agent has always pointed toward the greater good, or their greater motivation, which is Hydra, and he had none. So it was just really money and power, and it was very individual. So
all right, and then we get to a couple of the criticisms of the movie, like how Obadiah is a perfect pilot of the Ironmonger suit when he's never been in it because he hasn't been able to power it, and not to mention that Tony's arc reactor fits perfectly into his suit. And so I mean, those are kind of things that are just like comic booky, and you just kind of have to go roll with it. And
well, his scientists had a lot to make up for. They couldn't create the miniature arc reactor. Holy cow, did that guy get his ass chewed.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
That's how earth-shattering that technology was.
Yeah, and they make that even more of a big deal in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the well, we get like a second here with Terrence saying "next time, baby,"
which is so sad. You see Terrence Howard say "next time." He's looking at the suit, and next time Don Cheadle will be in it.
Yep, it's kind of. Oh man, that's a little sad.
Him and that soldier that never got a post to his MySpace page are kind of on the same sad level there. So
then we get to the ending. Like Tony, Pepper kills Ironmonger, and that's one thing that I feel like
stud. She kind of defeats multiple villains in the MCU. You think about it.
Yeah, she beat Aldrich Killian. She killed.
Pepper's a badass.
Yeah, let me think. She got with Justin Hammer arrested.
Yeah,
which we've never seen him again.
Every episode, everyone she's in, except for Infinity War and Avengers, she takes down a major villain.
Yeah, maybe she should have taken on Thanos, and she would have been able to win.
They're just kind of hinting that women probably ought to play a bigger part in this. Guys, get out of the way.
Yep. Yeah. So this final battle, I like it. We kind of talked about it as opposed to the battle between Red Skull and Captain America in First Avenger.
It's longer, developed a little better. You get to see, they tie the whole movie together in it, which is really good, as far as the icing issue. And and then Tony makes his first sacrificial move, which is, blow the arc reactor.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about that, seeing as how in Avengers, like, Cap makes a big deal out of Iron Man not being the guy to lay down on the wire and let the other guy crawl over.
I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play.
Time to hit the button! You die! Push it!
It cheapens it just a little bit since he's already had that arc.
It would have slowed the arc a
personally.
little bit, yeah. It would have slowed the arc of his character and made that sacrificial move in New York even more significant, even though it was very, very powerful. It's just still
And I feel like if they hadn't done it in Iron Man 1, then Iron Man 2 would have been like the even more setup for that, since he's dying in Iron Man 2.
Yep.
And he's trying to give everything away, because that's more of him just giving up, not necessarily him sacrificing himself.
Yep.
But then in Avengers, Avengers almost feels like the third movie to Iron Man's trilogy, because it could have paid off all of this perfectly if they hadn't had him already sacrifice himself, sort of, in the first Iron Man. But then we get to I Am Iron Man. That was like the mic drop at the end of this movie, because it's like, damn, no superhero has ever done that before, where they just publicly say, I am the superhero.
Yeah, every other superhero movie prior to this, other than Captain America, if you consider it. I mean, since it wasn't technically.
Well, Captain America didn't come out before this, so
and that's what I'm saying. Everyone else, it's that annoying conversation of a superhero, like trying to keep a secret and trying to lie to people who are trying to figure it out, and he comes out and he's just like, I am the shit. I'm Iron Man.
And then we get the actual Iron Man song playing over the credits.
Yep.
And
then Nick Fury comes back and he's like, you think
credit.
You are the shit. You really don't know.
Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
And nobody believed that this was going to work. I mean, 2008, we had to wait until 2012 to get the payoff of that after credits scene. We've had individual superhero movies. We've had team movies in the X-Men franchise, but we've never had individual movies come together to be one team movie.
Come together!
Shall we?
No. Nope. Nuh-uh. Nope. Ain't. No. All right, no. Yeah, no. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm drawing the line in the sand. No. I refuse. No. N-O means no.
The Avengers did it successfully, and nobody really has been able to do it successfully since Justice League. But yeah, but this movie was great. It was good. It had a couple of flaws here and there with just random conveniences with Monger being able to pilot his suit, and a lot of Iron Man falling and not dying. And
I'm going to give it an 80, I think.
80 out of 100.
80 out of 100. I think Robert Downey Jr. was fantastic, stepping into the role immediately. I thought Jon Favreau was brilliant in so many different aspects of this. Even the Iron Man suit and all the development and the close-ups of it, right before he took off on his very first flight, and just a lot of little things that just really brought all this to life. And
that whole having that face cam whenever he's in the suit, and he has and with all the heads-up display and everything, that was just a great idea that I don't think that they've really done. I don't remember if that had ever been done in the comics or not. But even if it had, it's a good idea that they included it.
I thought the villain was fantastic. I thought the plot was good. I thought the setup, the handoff to the next movie, even though it stood alone, really was well done. I give her an 80.
Yep, I also would have to say 80. It's a good movie with just a few flaws, and MCU they did a good job of learning to improve. They had a few hiccups here and there with maybe Incredible Hulk and Dark World for Thor, but overall, none of the MCU movies are really bad. They're just some of them that aren't quite as good as the other ones.
Yeah, I would say, if you to look at it as a standalone movie, I'd give it an 80. To look at it as the beginning plot point for the entire MCU, that I don't even know if you can rate that. The vision that they had for everything they set up in this movie for what was to come even here 15 years later.
All right. Well, that's good. That is Iron Man, made in 2008. Next one, we're going to be watching Iron Man 2, then Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Avengers, and then we'll finish. That'll be our wrap up for Phase 1, and we'll move on to the next one. So keep up with us, guys. We'll be watching them and trying to get them out as quickly as we can here, but we'll see you next time. Hey everybody, thank you for watching. Let us know in the comments what your favorite Iron Man suit is. Like, share, subscribe. Remember, we're not your boss, we're your friends, so spread it around. We're going to be going through all these movies, and we will see you all next time for Iron Man 2. Bye.